The 11-year-old girl couldn't speak, never could. Born mute, but she could hear everything, understand everything. She used sign language, drawings, gestures. That night, walking home from library, she saw smoke, fire. Through a broken window, 21 men trapped inside burning warehouse. Hell's Angels, dying. She couldn't call for help. Couldn't use phone, couldn't speak. She could only act, broke bigger window, waved her backpack frantically, dragged heavy ladder, pulled men out one by one, 21 times, inhaled toxic smoke, burned both hands, nearly died saving strangers. When the president woke in hospital, he asked, "Where's the girl who saved us?" Then he learned. She was 11. She was mute. She was fighting for her life. He made one decision. Lily Chen was 11 years old and silent. She'd been born that way. Severe congenital apraxia, doctors called it. Her brain couldn't send signals to muscles needed for speech. She was completely mute. But her hearing was perfect. Her intelligence above average. She just couldn't speak. Her parents, David and Susan Chen, Chinese immigrants, had learned American Sign Language when Lily was a baby. They communicated beautifully at home. Lily was fluent in ASL. Could express complex thoughts through gestures and facial expressions. She was brilliant, read at college level, drew intricate detailed artwork, wrote poetry. But outside home, most people didn't understand ASL. They'd talk to her slowly, assuming she couldn't understand. They'd ignore her. Some treated her like she was mentally disabled despite her obvious intelligence. It hurt. But Lily learned to navigate the hearing world with grace. The Chen family lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco's Chinatown. David worked as cook, $28,000 yearly. Susan sewed in garment factory, $22,000 yearly. Money was always tight, but they loved Lily fiercely, did everything to support her education and communication. November 12th, 2024. Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m. Lily was walking home from public library. She'd been there until closing, reading, studying. Her backpack was full of books. 15-minute walk home through industrial area near the port. She passed an abandoned warehouse, then noticed smoke, a lot of smoke coming from broken windows. Through one window she saw flames and people, many people, trapped inside. Lily ran closer, looked through the broken window. Her eyes widened in horror. 21 men. All wearing leather vests with patches. Hell's Angels MC San Francisco. They were trapped. Flames blocked the main exit. Smoke filled the building. Some were already collapsed. Others were stumbling blindly, coughing, searching desperately for escape. Someone had locked them inside and set the building on fire. Attempted mass murder. Lily's mind raced. She needed to call 911, but she couldn't speak on phone. She could text 911, but her phone was dead. She'd forgotten to charge it. She could run home, 15 minutes, get her parents. But these men would be dead in 5 minutes. She had to act. Now, herself. She looked around frantically, found a heavy brick, smashed a larger window near ground level, glass shattered. She waved her backpack through the opening, wild, frantic movements, trying to catch attention visually, since she couldn't yell. Finally, one man stumbled toward the light, saw her. She gestured frantically, universal body language. "Come here! Get out! Now!" But the window was 6 feet off ground, too high to climb without help. Lily ran around the building, searching. Found old metal maintenance ladder leaning against wall, 15 feet long, heavy, rusted. She was 72 pounds, 4'8". This ladder probably weighed 80 pounds. She grabbed it, pulled with everything she had. Adrenaline gave her impossible strength, dragged it 15 yards. Positioned it below the broken window, ran back to window, gestured more frantically. Ladder, here, climb. The first man reached the window. Massive, maybe 240, barely conscious from smoke. Lily grabbed his arms, pulled with all 72 pounds of her strength. He fell through window onto ladder, crawled down. Second man appeared. Lily pulled. Third, fourth. She counted mentally, had to get all of them, had to make sure nobody was left. The smoke was intense now, burning her lungs. She kept pulling. Fifth, sixth, seventh. Her hands touched hot metal. Burned. She ignored the pain. Eighth, Ninth, 10th. The building was collapsing, flames everywhere. 11th, 12th. 13. Lily's vision blurred. Smoke inhalation kept going. 14, 15, 16. Her hands were severely burned, blistered, bleeding, pulled anyway. 17, 18, 19. She could barely breathe, kept counting, couldn't stop until all was safe. 20, almost done. One more. Where was 21? Finally, the last man appeared. Older, maybe 62. His vest said President. He was carrying someone, no, dragging someone already unconscious, making sure everyone got out before him. Lily grabbed them both, pulled with her last strength. They tumbled through window. The roof collapsed. Massive crash. Flames shot up. If she'd been 10 seconds slower, they'd all be dead. Lily counted one more time. 21. All accounted for. All alive. Then she collapsed. Smoke inhalation, burns, exhaustion, everything went black. Lily woke 3 days later in San Francisco General Hospital burn unit. Her parents were beside her bed, crying. Her mother signed, "Baby, you're awake, thank God." Lily tried to sign back. Her hands were completely bandaged, couldn't move fingers. Panic showed on her face. "Your hands are burned, sweetheart." Her father signed slowly, so she could read lips instead. "Second-degree burns on both. You'll heal. Doctors say you'll regain full function, but it'll take time." Lily's eyes asked the question she couldn't sign. The men. "All 21 survived," Susan signed. "Because of you, you saved them all. They've been here every day asking about you." A nurse entered, saw Lily was awake. "I'll tell them. They've been waiting." 10 minutes later, a massive man entered. Bandages on his arms, oxygen tubes in nose, walking slowly. The president, the last one she'd pulled out. "Lily Chen," he said slowly, clearly. "I'm Reaper, president of Hell's Angels San Francisco. You saved my life. You saved 20 of my brothers. We owe you everything." Lily couldn't sign, couldn't write, couldn't respond, just looked at him with expressive eyes. "I know you can't talk," Reaper continued. "Nurses told me you're mute, born that way. But you heard us, you saw us, you acted. An 11-year-old girl who weighs nothing dragged an 80-pound ladder, pulled out 21 men, breathed toxic smoke, burned both hands, nearly died, for strangers. That's courage beyond anything I've seen in 40 years of this club." He pulled out his phone, showed her something, notebook page. Her notebook from her backpack, her writing. "My name is Lily Chen. I am mute. I cannot speak. I live at 847 Grant Street, Apt 3B. Phone parents 415 XAXAXX. I saved the men from fire because it was right thing to do." "This note saved us," Reaper said. "Paramedics knew who to call, where you lived, that you couldn't speak. That you chose to save us, knowing you couldn't call for help or explain what you were doing. Lily, we want to thank you, properly. Not just words. We want to do something that honors who you are and what you represent. Would you let us?" Lily nodded, carefully. "I've talked to my club, all 100 members. We're unanimous. We want to build something for you, not give you money, though we'll do that too for medical bills. Something bigger, something permanent, something that helps hundreds of kids like you." He showed her phone again. Architectural drawings. Beautiful building. Sign read, "Lily Chen School for Deaf and Mute Children." We're building a school," Reaper explained. "Complete campus for 250 deaf and mute kids, best teachers, all fluent in ASL, technology, resources, everything you needed but probably never got. Free tuition, transportation, meals, everything. Cost is about $12 million. We're raising it, already halfway there. This school will exist because you couldn't speak but chose to act anyway. You proved voice comes from heart, not mouth. We want every kid who attends this school to know they were given opportunity because Lily Chen was brave." Tears streamed down Lily's face. Her mother was sobbing. David was speechless. "You'll recover fully," Reaper said gently. "Hands will heal in 3 months. You'll sign again, draw again, write again, and when you're ready, you'll be first student to tour that school. You'll help design it. Tell us what deaf kids need. Make sure we do it right. Deal?" Lily nodded vigorously. Tears kept falling. Over the next 6 months, Lily healed. Her hands recovered fully. The burns left small scars, but didn't affect function. She could sign perfectly again. And the Hells Angels worked. They fundraised relentlessly. Charity rides across California, donations from businesses, grants, publicity from Lily's story brought massive support. Within 8 months, they'd raised $13 million. Construction began. A beautiful campus in Sunset District. 3 buildings, classrooms, art rooms, technology labs, gymnasium, library, outdoor spaces, all designed with deaf students in mind. Visual fire alarms, excellent lighting for signing, closed captioning everywhere. Lily visited weekly, consulted with architects, suggested modifications, ensured the school would truly serve deaf children's needs. "What do you think?" Reaper asked during one visit, watching construction. Lily pulled out her notebook. She always carried it. Wrote, "It's perfect, better than I imagined. Hundreds of kids will have better lives because of this, because you honored what I did. Thank you." "No, Lily, thank you. You saved 21 lives, risking your own. This is smallest possible way to honor that." The Lily Chen School for Deaf and Mute Children opened 18 months after the fire. September 2026. Capacity, 250 students. Applications, over 800. Demand was massive. Nothing like this existed in Bay Area. Opening ceremony drew 5,000 people. Media coverage was international. Hells Angels build school for deaf children to honor mute girl who saved 21 members. Lily, now 13, gave the opening speech in ASL with interpreter. Her hands moved gracefully. 2 years ago, I saw people dying. I couldn't call for help, couldn't scream, couldn't explain, could only act. I pulled 21 men from fire using my hands and my heart. Those men didn't just say thank you, they built this. 350 students will be educated here every year. They'll learn in language they understand. They'll be valued for who they are. They'll know silence doesn't mean inability. I proved courage doesn't need voice. This school proves community honors courage properly. Thank you, Hells Angels, for seeing beyond my silence, for building something beautiful from something terrifying. 5,000 people stood, applauding, many crying. The school thrived. First year, 250 students enrolled, all deaf or mute, ages 5 to 18, comprehensive curriculum, exceptional teachers, state-of-art technology, zero tuition. How do you fund this? Reporters asked Reaper. Hells Angels committed to permanent funding. We raise approximately $3 million annually through various activities. School endowment is $15 million. Interest covers most operating costs. We'll never let it close. This is permanent thank you to Lily. Forever. At 5 years, over 200 students had attended. Many graduated. Many went to college. Something previously seemed impossible for deaf kids from poor families. This school changed my life, one graduate signed during interview. I went from struggling in hearing school where nobody understood me to thriving here where everyone signs. Now I'm Berkeley student studying engineering because Lily was brave, because Hells Angels built this. At 10 years, the school expanded. Second campus, total capacity, 500 students, more programs, vocational training, college prep, job placement. We're successful because we remember Lily, school directors signed during anniversary. 11-year-old who couldn't speak saved 21 lives through pure courage. We ensure deaf children get opportunities Lily helped create. That's her legacy. The fire that nearly killed 22 people became spark for transformation. Gang members who'd set fire were convicted, sentenced to life. Meanwhile, Lily Chen School educated thousands. Lily herself graduated at 18. Attended Gallaudet University, premier deaf university. Studied education, returned to San Francisco at 22, began teaching at the school named after her. 20 years ago, I saved lives because it was right. Lily signed to her students. Not expecting anything, just acting. Those men honored that by building this, by giving you opportunities. Now you honor it by being excellent, by proving deaf people are capable of anything, by living courageously. That's how gratitude multiplies through generations. Sometimes heroes can't speak. Sometimes silence screams loudest. Sometimes one act builds schools. Lily proved it. Hell's Angels honored it. Thousands benefited forever. At 30 years after Lily saved 21 Hell's Angels from that burning warehouse, the impact of her silent courage had transformed deaf education across North America. Lily was 41 now, serving as principal of the Lily Chen School, which had grown into the largest and most prestigious deaf education institution in the western United States, serving over 1,200 students annually across 3 campuses. 30 years ago, I couldn't speak, but I could act, Lily signed, during a TED Talk that was viewed by 50 million people globally, with both ASL interpretation and closed captioning. I saved 21 lives because it was the right thing to do, not expecting anything in return. Those men didn't just thank me with words, they built an entire school. They proved that gratitude means action, not just sentiment. Now we've educated over 15,000 deaf and mute students across 3 decades. Thousands have graduated college, secured meaningful employment, built families, contributed to society. All because the Hell's Angels understood that honoring courage means creating lasting, institutional change. Reaper had passed away 5 years earlier at 87, 25 years after Lily saved him. His funeral drew 100,000 people. Lily delivered the eulogy in ASL, tears streaming as her hands shaped words about the man who'd turned her act of courage into a movement. Reaper lived 25 extra years because I dragged a ladder and pulled him through a window, Lily signed. He spent those years ensuring thousands of deaf children got education they deserved. He proved that being saved means saving others. Thank you, Reaper, for understanding that the greatest thank you is transformation, not transaction. David and Susan Chen, Lily's parents, now 72 and 70 respectively, had watched their daughter transform from isolated mute child struggling in hearing world to internationally recognized education leader. When Lily was born and doctors said she'd never speak, we worried about her future, Susan signed during an interview. We never imagined she'd save 21 lives, inspire a school, and become voice through her hands for thousands of deaf children worldwide. The Hell's Angels saw what many people missed. Silence doesn't mean inability. Lily proved that, and they honored it permanently. The original Lily Chen School had expanded dramatically over 3 decades. 3 full campuses now across Bay Area, San Francisco, original, Oakland and San Jose, combined enrollment of 1,200 students annually, waitlists of 3,000. Annual operating budget of $45 million, funded through Hell's Angels' ongoing fundraising, contributing $15 million annually, government grants, private donations, and endowment returns. The school had become model studied globally for deaf education excellence. We're successful because we never forgot our founding story, school board members signed during strategic planning. Lily Chen couldn't speak but saved 21 lives through courage and action. We ensure every student understands that disability doesn't determine ability, that silence can be powerful, that different communication methods are equally valid. Those aren't abstract values. They're our origin story, our DNA, our permanent commitment. The viral video from 30 years ago, news footage of 11-year-old Lily with bandaged hands signing her opening ceremony speech, had been viewed over 3 billion times, making it one of the most watched videos about disability rights and education. The image of tiny Lily, hands moving gracefully despite visible burn scars, explaining how she'd saved lives without voice, had become iconic in deaf community worldwide, appearing on advocacy materials, in ASL textbooks, in documentaries about overcoming communication barriers. At 35 years after the rescue, Lily received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her lifetime of service to deaf education and disability rights advocacy. At the White House ceremony, She wore a necklace containing a small piece of the original metal ladder she'd dragged, carefully preserved by the Hells Angels for 3.5 decades as reminder of where it all began. This ladder saved 21 lives 35 years ago. Lily signed during her acceptance speech, touching the necklace while interpreter voiced her words. But more importantly, it launched a movement. The Hells Angels could have just said thank you. Instead, they asked, how do we honor this permanently? The answer was education, giving deaf children opportunities I never had growing up. Now, 35 years later, we've educated 25,000 students. Many are doctors, engineers, teachers, artists, entrepreneurs. They're proving daily that communication methods don't determine capability. That's what I want everyone to understand. Disability is not inability. Silence is not emptiness, and proper support unleashes extraordinary potential. At 40 years, the 40th anniversary was commemorated with week-long celebrations across all 3 campuses. The original warehouse site where Lily performed the rescue had been converted into Courage Memorial, education center teaching about disability rights, communication accessibility, and community response to individual acts of bravery. 3 million visitors annually walked through exhibits showing the burned ladder, Lily's childhood notebooks, video testimonials from the 21 saved men, 15 still alive at 40 years, and most powerfully, graduation photos of thousands of students whose education was possible because one 11-year-old chose courage over safety. 40 years ago, Lily Chen saved lives using hands that couldn't sign for help because they were busy pulling grown men through windows. Speakers signed during anniversary ceremony attended by 50,000 people, including students, alumni, Hells Angels members, and disability rights advocates. Those hands became permanently scarred, but fully functional. She used them to teach, to advocate, to communicate, to lead. Now, those same hands, at 41 years old, continue shaping education for hundreds of students annually. That's what honoring sacrifice looks like. Not a moment of applause, but decades of sustained institutional commitment. Lily's own children. She'd married at 28. Another deaf educator, and had 2 children who were hearing but fluent in ASL, were now teenagers themselves, both volunteering extensively at the school. Mum's story shaped everything about how we see the world, her daughter Maya explained during an interview, using both sign and voice. We grew up understanding that communication barriers are created by society, not by deaf people. That silence can be powerful. That courage transcends all abilities. Those aren't abstract concepts. They're the literal story of why we exist and why this school exists. The Hells Angels organization had been profoundly transformed by Lily's silent courage. They'd evolved from primarily a motorcycle club into major education philanthropy organization, operating 17 schools across North America, serving deaf, blind, and disabled students. Annual education funding exceeded $200 million, all because one mute 11-year-old had valued life over safety. Lily changed our identity permanently, current Hells Angels members signed during interviews, many having learned ASL specifically to communicate with school community. Before her, we were bikers helping bikers. After her sacrifice, we understood that true strength means supporting vulnerable people who show extraordinary courage. An 11-year-old who couldn't speak taught us that actions define character more than words ever could. That's our mission now, finding and supporting people who demonstrate courage despite facing barriers most people never experience. At 50 years after that November night, the 50th anniversary was massive international event. Representatives from deaf education institutions across 80 countries attended. Thousands of Lily Chen School alumni returned. 15 of the original 21 saved men were still alive, now in their 80s and 90s, all present and all having learned ASL over decades to communicate properly with school community. 50 years ago, Lily Chen saved our lives. Snake. now 92, using walker but still sharp, signed slowly but clearly at the ceremony, having practiced for months. She couldn't speak, but she acted. She couldn't call for help, but she became help. We've spent 50 years trying to live up to the standard an 11-year-old set. We've educated 50,000 students. We've changed policies in 70 countries. We've proven that disability education, properly funded and properly designed, unleashes incredible human potential. All because Lily was brave, and we were smart enough to honor that bravery with more than words. At 75 years after Lily dragged that heavy ladder and pulled 21 men from flames, both she and most of the original Hells Angels were gone. Lily had passed at 76 after an extraordinary life of education leadership. Most of the 21 saved men had passed in their 80s and 90s, but the school and movement they'd created together remained vibrant and expanding, now serving as global model for disability education and institutional gratitude. The Lily Chen school system had evolved into the Silent Courage Network, international education organization operating in 60 countries across 6 continents. Over 200 schools serving deaf, mute, blind, and multiply disabled students. Combined enrollment exceeding 100,000 students annually. Annual operating budget of $5 billion. Funded through Hells Angels' ongoing massive fundraising, government partnerships, international grants, and substantial endowments. Over 500,000 students educated across 75 years, with profound impact on disability rights, communication accessibility, and societal attitudes toward people with disabilities. Lily's principle guides everything globally. Network leaders signed during the 75th anniversary summit in Geneva, attended by representatives from all 60 operating countries. She couldn't speak, but she saved lives. She couldn't call for help, but she became help. She proved that disability doesn't determine capability, that communication barriers are created by society, not by disabled individuals, that proper support unleashes extraordinary potential. We've spent 75 years institutionalizing those principles, building schools where deaf students thrive, training teachers in proper communication methods, advocating for accessibility, proving that disability is difference, not deficiency. The Hells Angels organization had become virtually unrecognizable from its motorcycle club origin. Now primarily an international education and disability rights organization with 12 million members across 90 countries, operating 200 schools, funding thousands of accessibility projects, employing 50,000 educators and support staff. All members learned ASL as part of basic training. Many chapters focused exclusively on disability advocacy and education support. The organization had become largest private funder of disability education globally, contributing over $10 billion annually. We'll never forget Lily's lesson, members signed during the Diamond Jubilee celebration, organization now requiring all leaders to be fluent in ASL. A mute 11-year-old saved 21 of us. We spent 75 years honoring that by supporting hundreds of thousands of disabled students. She taught us that true strength means recognizing courage in unexpected places and responding with sustained institutional commitment. That's our identity now. We're educators and advocates who happen to ride motorcycles, not bikers who occasionally help kids. And the original warehouse site, Courage Memorial, had expanded into 200-acre campus, including museum, research institute, teacher training center, and operational headquarters for Western Region disability education programs. 20 million visitors annually walked through exhibits, with most powerful installation being the preserved original ladder, now displayed behind protective glass, with detailed explanation of how 72-pound child had dragged 80-pound ladder to save men 5 times her size. This ladder represents impossible made possible. Tour guides signed to school groups visiting from around world. Lily Chen couldn't speak, couldn't call for help, couldn't explain what she was doing. She could only act. This ladder was her tool of courage. 21 men owe their lives to it. 500,000 students owe their education to what it represents. That disability doesn't prevent heroism, that silence doesn't mean inability, that proper institutional response to individual courage creates generational transformation. At 100 years after Lily's 11-year-old sacrifice, the centennial was humanity's largest coordinated celebration of disability rights and education accessibility. Simultaneous events in every nation where Silent Courage Network operated. 2 billion people participating globally through gatherings, media, digital commemorations. All honoring a century of proving that disabled individuals, properly supported, achieve extraordinary things. 100 years ago, Lily Chen saved 21 lives without speaking a word. World leaders signed in coordinated statements broadcast globally with full accessibility features. That act created a century of building institutions that support disabled students. We've educated 5 million students across 100 years. We've changed laws in 150 countries requiring communication accessibility. We've proven conclusively that disability is social construct, not personal limitation. Thank you, Lily, for showing us that courage transcends all abilities. Thank you, Hell's Angels, for understanding that gratitude means building, not just thanking. At 150 years, the sesquicentennial was marked by revolutionary policy changes. Every nation where Silent Courage Network operated had implemented Lily protocols, mandatory comprehensive support systems for students with communication disabilities, requiring all schools to provide ASL instruction, requiring all public spaces to have visual communication systems, requiring all teacher training programs to include disability education modules. The protocols ensured that disabled students received education and support comparable to what Lily Chen's school system provided. She showed courage 150 years ago that we're still trying to match. Policymakers signed during implementation ceremonies. We're ensuring every disabled child receives opportunities Lily helped create. That's systemic honoring of sacrifice. That's how we honor her legacy permanently, not through monuments alone, but through daily support for millions of students. Didit. At 200 years after 11-year-old Lily Chen pulled 21 men from burning warehouse without speaking a word, her story had achieved mythological status in global disability rights movement and education reform. Every special education program worldwide had restructured around the Lily model, comprehensive, properly funded, communication-accessible education, proving that disability doesn't determine potential. The Lily Principle, it was called in international education policy, the concept that communication disabilities require institutional adaptation, not individual accommodation, that silence can be a powerful form of expression, that disability is difference requiring support, not deficit requiring fix. This principle was enshrined in educational law of 193 nations, trillions of dollars annually funded programs supporting disabled students globally according to Lily model standards. The Silent Courage Network operated universally. Every nation, every community, annual budget exceeding $500 billion globally. Over 50 million students educated across 2 centuries, each receiving comprehensive support, ensuring their communication differences didn't prevent educational and life success. Results were undeniable. Disabled students in Lily Model schools achieved outcomes comparable to or exceeding non-disabled peers, completely disproving historical assumptions about disability and capability. The Hells Angels, now 50th generation since Reaper, had become humanity's largest disability rights and education organization. 50 million members across every continent, all required to be fluent in ASL and at least one other disability communication method. They operated 5,000 schools, employed 5 million educators and support staff, advocated for accessibility in every context. They'd completely transformed from motorcycle club to essential global institution, ensuring disabled people received proper support. We'll never forget why we exist, members signed during bicentennial commemorations. 200 years ago, mute 11-year-olds saved 21 of us. That taught us permanently that disability doesn't prevent heroism, that communication barriers are society's failure, not individuals' limitation, that proper support unleashes extraordinary potential. Our eternal mission is ensuring every disabled person receives support that honors their potential, the way we honored Lily's courage. Lily's lesson endures across centuries. Silence doesn't mean inability. Communication disabilities require society's adaptation. Courage transcends all abilities. Small acts, properly honored, create infinite institutional change. Hell's Angels lesson endures equally. Gratitude means building institutions, not just saying thanks. Honor courage with sustained commitment. Support vulnerable people who show strength. Together they proved that one mute 11-year-old's silent courage creates 2 centuries of global transformation, affecting 50 million disabled students. 200 years. 50 million students educated. Global culture permanently transformed. All because one child who couldn't speak chose to act. That's the eternal power of silent courage. That's the infinite miracle of institutional gratitude. That's the legacy that never dies. Thank you, Lily, for acting when you couldn't call for help, for saving lives with hands, not voice, for proving silence can be powerful. Thank you, Hell's Angels, for building schools, not just saying thanks, for understanding gratitude means transformation, for supporting millions because one saved 21. The lesson lives forever. Act courageously regardless of disability. Honor courage with institutions, not just words. Support disabled people's potential comprehensively. Never confuse silence with inability. Never let communication barriers prevent recognition. Never forget small acts create infinite change. Because Lily couldn't speak but saved lives. Because Hell's Angels built schools to honor her. Because 50 million students benefited forever. That's truth, that's power, that's legacy, courage, gratitude. Transform always?